Now, speaking of which, my question.
Lewis's question.
I am religious about this, and I'd like to have someone change my mind because I like to be. No, I don't like to be wrong. That's false. No one likes to be wrong. But if you can come with something that actually makes me rethink my decision on this, then I want to hear it.
I think I got you covered, mate.
But so my question is, I have to word this in a way where it's...
This is a spicy one.
Should PTs, so personal trainers, be able to practice or do their PT if they are on steroids, or if they're on steroids, pretty much?
So Lewis is asking, should personal trainers be able to take steroids?
I'll let you go first.
I kind of want to hear what you've got to say, because I know obviously you're strongly opposed, or you're like have a strong opinion about something. I'm just curious to find out what that is.
So, I reckon that they shouldn't be because, all right, there's a few things I have to establish first. I don't think it's a problem if you're a coach for like a bodybuilding coach. That's not the PTs I'm talking about. Of course, if you're getting into that field, you just know that there's steroids everywhere.
So you're talking about the everyday PTs at normal gyms PTing everyday
I
normal
don't think
people.
it's a problem too if the personal trainer had been on steroids for a period, then has gone on to TRT, because TRT isn't steroids. If you're you just have to, if you've been on steroids for long enough, go on TRT, because you just can't, your body can't naturally produce it again, and preaches the negatives about it, right? That I don't have a problem with them because they've sort of learnt from the mistake, right, of doing it and stuff. I have a problem when it's a PT. This should be a no-brainer. That's on steroids and lies about it, so they're a fake natty, because that's fraud, right? It's fraud. It is. A business gets in trouble when it lies about numbers that it's not producing to influence the investors. That's how they hype it up to get more people to pay money to them. Mm-hmm. That's fraud, and it's illegal. But if a PT is on steroids looking the way they do, they're influencing people who haven't started the gym, don't know anything about it, to get them to come and go, no, you can achieve this naturally. You can. That is bad. Yeah. I also have a problem with people who are still using it. It's not steroids if it's TRT, but if they're still cycling, regardless of sort of what their opinion is on it at all, because at the end of the day, they're still cycling on it. So obviously they mustn't be too against it, because they're still using it for purposes.
So you also have a problem with, PTs that are taking it and are honest about it to their clients.
Yeah.
So they're completely upfront.
But they're still, it's different if you're upfront and being like, I had been on steroids, now I'm on TRT.
I'm talking about people currently cycling.
Yeah.
Do you have a problem with PTs that are currently on steroids but discourage their clients to take steroids?
Yes, because that's hypocritical. Why the client? I feel like that's just going to get someone that's new into a point of mind where they go, well, "You're on it. What's any different about you than me? Why can't I do it? You made the decision to do it." It's annoying too, because the people who are on steroids will always preach that they know so much about it and everything. Cool, but at the end of the day, the knowledge you have of steroids isn't going to stop all the negative things coming through, regardless of how mentally prepared you are for it. You're not going to be able to just go, oh yeah, I can just be prepared to not have kids and stuff. And that's the thing that also annoys me. The big push that they always go is the worst thing is just infertility. That's it. Well, no, it's not. There's things like a higher chance of increased chances of cardiovascular disease and stuff. These bodybuilders don't just die at 50 because they pushed themselves in the gym that hard. Well, it is. But you know what caused them to do that? The steroids. The body can only maintain... This is why it's natural. It's normal to be like this, because the body can only upkeep what it was biologically made to upkeep. If you're massive, right, and it's got to pump more blood around than anything, and you're pushing it to the extremes, right, which is what the steroids are doing, then it's going to cause some real issues later in life, real issues.
Yes, that's true. Yeah.
That no one someone who is new coming in does not have the knowledge of, and seeing their mentor if that's what they want to refer to their PT as, but essentially that's the person they're taking their fitness advice off, taking steroids. That what's stopping them from going, one day I'll do it once I've got enough experience to be like, yeah, okay, you know. It's just you know why it annoys me is because it's just so casual in the gym. You just come in the gym and just steroids, it's whatever, you know. But it's not a good thing. It's just too casual.
No, it's not. Steroids obviously is a test.
They are.
It's a bad
too
thing.
Casual.
But does someone taking steroids, like, surely I'm...
You know why it's sad too? Sorry, I'll cut you off. Actually, no, you know what? Go. I'll save it.
I'm hoping that people can be smart enough to, you know, have enough self-awareness and knowledge to know, like, okay, I'm not going to take steroids. My goal isn't to be like this right now. And they can make their own decision for themselves. Like, what does... I don't know. You make really, really good points. You're making some, like, excellent points. But what does the PT taking steroids... How does that affect the knowledge that the PT is outputting to their clients? Like, they could be super, super knowledgeable and clever, and they could have changed so many people's lives.
Yeah.
But they're on steroids. Like, oh my god, like,
but in the
jail.
Back, it's in the yeah, I get that, but it's in the remember, we're talking about people who aren't on like TRT and stuff. These are people who are either using
Yeah.
and being honest about it, or using and lying.
Yeah, understand that.
It's an issue because the advice that they give, right? I get they can give. It's just
What if they don't? Well, they're not giving advice about taking steroids. They're making workout plans and, you know, giving fitness advice.
Yeah, I get that, but this is someone who they trust to give them advice on fitness.
Well, surely
and
can
then
they
it's
not
someone
be?
that they
Can
cannot.
they not? Do you not have enough
These
faith that people
people
have enough self-awareness?
Yeah.
And brain power to know that.
Well, they're seeking help from an outside source to go to the
Can we
gym, so
also
they're very
remember
vulnerable. That's what I'm saying.
They
People
are very
vulnerable.
But steroids aren't like. I don't know. I can't speak on this because I don't know. But they can't just be. They're not that accessible, are they? And they're very, very expensive. I don't picture a newcomer, never stepped foot in a gym before.
That's true.
Wanting to come in and outlay a bunch of money and try and find steroids.
But you know what?
Their
Yeah,
first few
because
months.
it's expensive to upkeep and keep doing. What's stopping someone from going, I'll just do it once? Once they've done it once, it's just you've like already. If you do it once for long enough, it's already like an issue. Like you'll have to then, you know, reap the negatives of that. Of, you know, there's consequences that follow it, even just doing it once.
What are your thoughts?
So in my mind, there's one obvious scenario to where this is not okay. I think for all the other times, I think PTs taking steroids is alright. If they are selling you something based on them being on steroids, that's not okay.
And like lying about it, you mean? Or
well, you don't even have to lie about it. You can just say nothing. If it's like if say I'm a PT and you're my client, if I say, hey, I want you to keep taking my PT classes or whatever you call PT sessions, because I think you're going to be able to look like me soon. That's not okay. If they're on steroids and there's no chance in hell that this person's ever going to look like you.
It's fraud.
You can't do that.
Yeah.
But a personal trainer's job for 99% of gym goers is help them with their problems. They're probably sore somewhere. Give them exercises that will help fix their pain. Motivate them to do the actual exercises. And look out for them. Make sure that's your job as a personal trainer, to make sure they're doing the exercises correctly. So that their injuries don't get worse, or they don't get injuries. Whether or not you're on steroids has no impact whatsoever on your ability to give that advice and motivation.
That's sort of where I stand too.
That's okay. That's what we've discussed this before, me and Grace, which is what you sort of said that they have to upkeep an appearance, and that's why.
No,
but it's sad that then that's the reason they've got to do it.
No, I don't believe that. I've seen a lot of people, PTs out there that don't look like Ronnie Coleman. They just look like a normal person, and they're an amazing PT. But you have to be naive to think that some people, some clients don't look at the PTs available and go, oh my God, like that person, that like they look amazing. Oh my God, I'd love to get coached by them. Look how good they look.
But then if they were to find the truth out, it defeats that sort of purpose of, look at them. I could maybe get there one day. Well, no, you can't.
Why does that matter if they're honest about it?
Yeah.
Well, the difference, when you bring up the injury, I feel like the injury thing and stuff, I feel like you find most of the lifestyle PTs and stuff, most of them are natural anyway. Like the sort of ones that would work with older people and things like that are.
But are they?
I feel like a majority would be. I feel like you find the ones that aren't are the ones that are all focused on the hypertrophy and like the strength building and stuff. And
what are the chances, though, of out of the small proportion of personal trainers that are not natural, how many of those are going to be the ones that lie to you? What financial incentive do they actually have to say to lie about their steroid use?
But I feel like it's a discouragement, even if they don't lie about it to the people, because then they go, well,
but then you're doing a bad job.
I guess it's more.
You can show them as many natural bodybuilders as you want that look fucking good.
I suppose, but it's just sort of a case of, I feel like we could put these sort of people that they get PTing as people who are younger, put them in a younger age bracket, because I feel like older people are a little bit different. They're like more easily influenced just in general, like, so I feel like regardless of if they're discouraging it and just there, I feel like it would just be in the back of their mind. And there comes a point, I feel like, with most people who go to the gym and just like are doing it for hypertrophy and stuff and like looking good, where you will one day think about it. You'll just not seriously, but it'll cross your mind. And if the person that brought you into the sort of fitness space and stuff did it, that's someone that you've trusted with information, sure, about the motivation and stuff and whatever. But then I go, well, I can trust them enough that they're on gear. They've done it. Like, they're a trustworthy person, is what I'm saying.
Then just ask.
I suppose, but like,
they have the experience. They have lived the pros and the cons.
But I feel like the people who aren't like the on TRT and that are currently cycling it and stuff, they wouldn't be against being like, one day, once you're not developing and stuff, take it when you're in your like, you could. I've heard like PTs be like not opposed to it and being like, no, just don't. They're like, okay, don't have it if you're an 18-year-old. Maybe wait till you've like reached like a certain point in your like done a fair few years of lifting and stuff anyway and stuff. That's giving them like an ultimatum at the end of it, being like, oh well, don't do it now, do it later. It's okay if you do it later.
I think that's good advice. They're being honest with the person that they're talking to.
I get that, but it's just it's annoying that
at that point of your like bodybuilding or weightlifting journey, you should be, if you're like contemplating taking steroids, unless you're like an 18-year-old, if you're receiving this advice about you're this age, there shouldn't be as many consequences if you do it now, you should have a better understanding on what the consequences actually are, because you've been in that environment for a long enough time to learn about that kind of thing.
And then they could
I guess
make
so,
their
but
own
they
informed
don't
choice.
they don't then know until they've done it.
I feel like we need to have faith in people to also make their own informed choices. And if they don't, well, that's on them. Big L to them.
I feel like people working out are the most vulnerable, especially when they're starting out. Like, regardless of sort of what people are saying and stuff, they've just it's too steroid use is too. That's what I was saying about it's too mainstream and it's too casual for people to just think, "Raw, really, I shouldn't take it."
You could use the same thing. So if you're saying that people will idealize people who are on steroids, then wouldn't it be the same thing to say ban people who are taking steroids from normal gyms.
Yeah.
Because you could look at the PT and say, oh yeah, that guy's jacked, and I want to look like him. And then look at the guy on the chest press machine who's on steroids.
No,
and
because
be like,
because
oh, yeah,
it's
he's
not.
jacked.
Yeah, I get that. I get that.
PTs
but
aren't giving out
it's
advice
a
on
business.
steroids.
They're selling their business, which is them being a PT. It's if you get advice from Joe Blow who takes
aren't
like
they more
500 milligrams of test a week, and he just gives you just some advice and stuff and whatever. It's different.
Aren't they selling?
Because he's not profiting off
Aren't
your
they
demise.
selling their knowledge that they have about working out and
Yeah,
about
but
I
helping
wouldn't
people?
say personal trainers are selling their image unless they're like taking sponsors, creating their own supplements and products and things like that they are selling to
I
people.
feel like, but the most that are on gear are the ones that are doing that. Is what I'm saying. Most the look. There's.
I feel
most
like that's a very small percentage too.
Maybe it's just a more of a vocal minority. That's what I'd assume anyway, because that's
so.
what you see the most on social media. You don't get as famous from being natural.
I suppose.
Yeah.
Well, I was going to use a metaphor. It's the same one I sort of used, or like a related sort of, like if you were, it's probably a bit weird now. I don't like thinking it over in my head, but if you were like at an AA thing, right, and you're an alcoholic, and so are all these other people, and the person that's mentoring everyone, right, and is going out, like, you know, like how they have discussions, and there's someone that's dedicated to that group, right, they can be an alcoholic or have been an alcoholic and also have missed. I haven't got a problem with that because they know that it was wrong. But if they're just still casually drinking alcohol on the side, when these people are like, that shouldn't be advice that they can be like, oh, you know, yeah, it's all right to have some alcohol here and there, and you know, like you can do it in moderation. Where it's like there are people that are vulnerable enough where it's just not the case. Like you just shouldn't have it at all. And if you relate that then to
I'm not
this,
educated enough on the topic of alcoholism to be able to like relate those particular lessons to bodybuilding.
I'm just saying it is a general statement of vulnerability and people being vulnerable, not more as like a.
I don't know.
Alcoholism
I guess like new gym goers are vulnerable, but I'm not sure they're vulnerable on that level. And I feel like that they're vulnerable only because they're just not knowledgeable like some other people are. They're motivated and they're keen to get in and start the gym. They just need that bit of help and knowledge that they lack. I wouldn't say that they're vulnerable and like are just like open to try anything to become
I'd say they would be, because like they're not disciplined enough to get themselves in without the support of someone.
Well, they
getting
might
them in
be
there.
disciplined
What's
enough.
stopping them from going, oh, if I just do a little bit of testosterone, get me a little bit more of a head start.
They might be disciplined enough, but they just might be a little bit scared to go into a gym in an environment where there's people who know what they're doing around. Like a gym can be really intimidating. They might just need that little bit of extra confidence that there's a PT here with me and they can explain everything to me so I don't feel like an idiot just like stumbling around the gym. Like they might just want, I find people often want that in a PT.
I suppose.
Like they just want a bit of help and it's just comfortable going in there.
Someone you can trust in the gym.
Yeah.
But like, yeah, I suppose.
Like these people aren't not disciplined and they lack, you know, life skills and they're just useless.
Sometimes it takes people a little bit of time just to find their groove.
Yeah, and they just want a little bit of help from a PT. And like PTs are using their knowledge to help them. They're not selling them being on steroids, I guess. In most cases. I don't know. I find if I was to go in and want a PT and my PT was on steroids, but they were giving me like really good advice, I'd be like, okay, I'll take the advice and I can make my own informed decision on whether I'm going to take steroids. I don't care if my personal trainer is taking steroids. I just want to know how to do this exercise the best I can.
I suppose. But I feel like it's already like introduced you to the fact of how I feel like it's more casuality. Well, I wouldn't say I will say it's not. I don't think it's it should be like banned or anything. But I'd say, in my opinion, it's immoral. I feel like it's not. It's just, I don't know. I'm not a fan of it as much. It's more immoral. But it's not something that ever wouldn't be a thing.
But you will accept PTs that coach competitors being on steroids. That's fine.
Well, it's just that's the truth of the gym is that if you're going into that sport of bodybuilding, you just know that you can't really, unless you're like, I get there's natural bodybuilding and stuff, but if you're like in bodybuilding in general, like you just know that it's just there regardless. Like there's plenty of just like federations that could have natural people but don't test very well and stuff. And it's just there. You just like it's just I don't know. I'm not as big on it with people who are starting because they're already gone in and there's already there's someone that's helping me out and it's just they're on steroids. Like it's just the person that's just at the gym.
Then again, you know with PEDs, someone could look pretty normal, like pretty average, and they could be on it. Like they don't always, depending on what you're taking, they don't always necessarily blow you up to look like the next Mr. Olympia.
I suppose.
Like you can look pretty
natural, but to someone who is starting out, that regardless of if they look normal to like say someone that's been going often enough, they'd be like, that's maintainable.
Just what if someone's taking PEDs and they just look like you? Because there are people taking drugs that look like you.
But to me, but for someone who's starting out, I might look very impressive for someone. Well, I don't like. I'm not saying I think that. Like I just look like an average sort of person that goes to the gym.
Yeah, but you might
that's
look
still
impressive.
That's still impressive to someone who's starting. That I look.
Yeah,
I
but
could
then
look much more impressive to someone who's just starting out.
Yeah, but then they can look over next door and you're there and you look the exact same. But say you are both PTs and the guy that looks exactly like you is honest about taking steroids but is PTing this guy. You're next to him, you're a PT, you're natural, giving the same advice. What's the difference?
I suppose. I don't know. They're just... I've almost lost track of this argument. It's gone on for so long. I've kind of spaced out a bit.
There'll be lots of cuts in this, but at the end of the day, I would have to disagree with your statement.
Me too.
I'm gonna stick with it and say that's. I reckon it's immoral. I mean, obviously, I feel like we can all agree if they lie about it, it's immoral.
Yeah.
Yeah, of course.
But
anyone, even if you're a PT or not, and if you lie about it, that's immoral.
Or if you conceal information in a way that's detrimental to the person you're training.
Or you gain something from that, yeah.
But look, I reckon it's still immoral if they're honest about it, but still using it, not like on TRT or anything like that.
But they're honest.
Yeah, but they're honest about it.
It's still immoral.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Yeah. Okay.
Okay, well, I was thinking about kind of like the separation between their work and their personal life. Taking steroids is not something you do for work.
But
you do it for your own personal goals.
I get that, but it affects their work because that's what their work is.
Yeah, I that's why I was like, probably not going to bring it up, because going into a job, you have to understand the implications of your role within the job. Like if you're a doctor, you have to understand that if you're in a wrong frame of mind or if you're misinformed, the flow-on effect will happen and it'll cause harm to your patient.
Yeah.
It's a similar sort of thing, like being a PT. So, yeah, I don't know.
You've raised some, like, solid points, though.
Yeah.
I reckon you've raised some really good points, but I personally don't see an issue with a PT on gear being honest about it.
It just more comes down to, it's just more coming down to like the bigger picture of that it's too casual, that it's just too casual in gym communities and just like people working out and stuff, is that we can just see a problem, not see a problem with it like at all, like that it's just sort of like, who cares if
so
they're on
gear? There's like a bigger issue.
Like, it is like more of a thing of the bigger issue to it and stuff like.